guys.
Hello, ladies.
We're excited. Oh, we have a name for the podcast.
Yes, welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast. I am your co-host, Sybil Amudi.
And I am your co-host, Brandis Daniel.
And we are so excited to be here today, guys. We finally got our name, and hopefully you love it. We've sat with it, and what you think? You love
we've
it?
gone back and forth with so many names, and so that's the one.
Thank you for your patience
that
with
we
us.
finally landed on. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I am
What's been going on with
too.
you, Sybil?
OMG, so much. I've just been doing brand building, my own brand, and doing some consulting with a few different people that I really like that are working on their own projects and enjoying family and this beautiful weather here in New York, summertime. Whoop, whoop. What about you?
I know. I have been out in these streets late.
Yes,
at
I'm
night.
catching you on Instagram in the streets.
My husband is like, please stop having my child out late at night.
I think you need a curfew.
But I think I do too. I went to a really great dinner the other night, though. It was all these people from like the sports industry, music industry, radio. It was so interesting. And what I loved about it was that it was so freaking casual. And these were like people at the top of their game.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what's so great about, I feel like in New York, so many people start from the bottom as intern or mailroom or whatever.
Yeah.
And when they make it to these positions that are really respected and regarded, they still stay humble.
yeah. That's definitely,
love that.
I mean, that table, the lady beside me was like the head of a record label. Mm-hmm. And she was super cool. And then there were like all these ESPN guys there, all of them super cool. It was a nice, I was like, this is what I love about New York.
Yeah.
I think in other cities, sometimes people take themselves a little too seriously.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
offense to other cities,
not
but
out
I'm just
here.
saying.
Not out here, but I'm glad that you've been having a great week, and me too. And Rich is doing good. Hey, Rich.
Good. How the kitties in Kwaku?
Oh, as amazing as ever. In fact, we have a date night tonight.
Oh,
yeah. I think we're gonna go to the Whitney.
Cool.
So we've been having a lot of great conversation here on the podcast, the Great Girlfriends podcast.
We have.
We've been diving into relationships, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about family.
Yep, and our last conversation was actually on friendship.
Yes.
And how do you know when to end a friendship?
How do you know when to end a friendship? How do you know when to cut that last thread on that weave, right?
Yes.
Cut that thread so it's not hanging. So I love that because I feel like, from what I've heard from other people, the podcast is exciting.
Yes.
And, people are really getting fed by the content and you guys are really showing up and enjoying it. So thank you. So today, Brandis has selected a topic and...
Yeah, I'll chime in right here
because
Sybil is not very happy with me for choosing this topic,
Nope.
but I think it's important because it's something I had to deal with today. But our topic is, how do you deal with disappointment?
Boo. No, but it is, how do you deal with disappointment? And I actually want to applaud you, Brandis, for even approaching this because you've had, just recently faced your own disappointment, and I have had a slow drag of emotional disappointments that have been taking place this month, but I think it's a relevant topic. But what made you want to go here?
Well, today I had a phone call. There was a pending business deal on the table that I was so excited about. And I've been working so hard on this for like the past month now. And just constantly, everything they asked me for, just bringing it to the table. And things did not go the way that I wanted them to go on our phone call today. Today's phone call was kind of deciding like, okay, how we're going to move forward and in what time frame. And it wasn't, a complete, like, we're not doing this, but it was not in the time frame at which I wanted it to happen. And so I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even tell you, like, my heart dropped, like, just totally disappointed. And so when we were thinking about podcast topics, I was like, okay, we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I clearly have some very fresh emotion
Yeah.
around it, and women get disappointed. And so we need to talk about, like, how do you deal with that?
I agree. I think it's important because somehow in our heads we set up expectation with people and things and how people will respond to us or what we like to see. I mean, because we're all creative, so we want to be able to visualize or imagine this great response or this great moment, and then boom, something other than what we expected happens, and it takes us down this trail of sadness or really just turmoil around disappointment sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's out of our control a lot of times, right?
Absolutely. I want you to tell me, since I gave my story.
All right, so I'm going to go pick up the kids now. And it's nice talking to you, great girlfriends. I'm out. Y'all know I'm a closed box. I want to share.
Come on, you got to tell us. Like, what's something that's disappointing that's happened to you recently?
You know, just an entire scenario where I had a very long-term friendship that I would have never imagined to be in the stage that it's in right now. And like I said, it's been a month of just dragging down a trail of just disappointing moment after moment, or thoughts when I look back over how I expected things to be. And my friends not showing up the way I thought they would in my life. And it really is a true hurt because of the way that I deal with friends. So it's like, it's one that you think you're over something and then you're not, and you think you're over it and you're not. It keeps rising up and you have all these conversations in your head.
Yeah.
That just, and then they don't happen, but they're good in your head. You're just telling them off.
I know. That's how I felt today.
You know, those mirror conversations where you are just going in. So, I have to, like you, manage that. The how-to part. How do you settle that? How do you end it?
Yeah.
Like,
because I'm still feeling it. Like, even as we're talking on this podcast, like, there's still, like, a huge piece of disappointment that I'm still, like, dealing with.
Yeah.
It's so fresh.
Well, I know that for sure. When we have expectation, like we do, because people will, oftentimes you'll be in a situation or whatever, and things will be progressing to a certain point, and you expect them to keep going forward.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You would do, because if you were in their skin, you would do things a certain way.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and when that doesn't happen, it is,
it sucks.
It's frustrating. It is. So
it sucks.
Tell me, Brandis, what you think, so many women in this on our podcast that are listening in, and so many women that are out there in relationships and at work, and we set high expectations for people. So how do you think this really ties in for our audience in terms of what they need to learn about dealing with disappointment?
Well, I can talk about a couple of things, ways that I deal with disappointment. And first of all, it's going to come in so many different forms, right? So you might be disappointed from your significant other.
Yeah.
Your disappointment might come in business. I'm an entrepreneur, and there is so many times when I put so much out there and I expect to get certain things back and they don't come back in the way that I expect them to. And then there's people and relationships and friendships, and you get disappointed that way too. It may even be, you might be on a job and you're up for a promotion, because I've had that happen to me too.
Yeah.
I went out for a promotion and couldn't understand why I didn't get the promotion.
Yeah.
And it was given to somebody else and I thought I was more qualified, and that was a huge disappointment. So I think there's so many ways that our women who listen to this podcast can relate to disappointment.
Yeah. I think too, like you said, with families and with the spouse and that relationship side is so, or the person that you're dating, and you expect them to bring you this certain gift on your birthday, and you thought you wrote it out and you thought you made it clear, and he comes in with roses.
Girl, let me tell you okay, so here's what's so funny. So I met with somebody from my team the other day, and she was telling me that she was so mad at her boyfriend. And I said, I was never going to ask, like, why you were mad at him, but she was like, and it was just such a little thing, but I was just so mad. I'm telling you, Brandis, I haven't been this mad in years. So I said, oh my God. And so she goes, you know what he did? And I'm like, what? She was like, he didn't call my dad for Father's Day. So I said to her, well, did you tell him to call your dad for Father's Day? No. Why should I have to tell him to call my dad for Father's Day? I said, well, were y'all together when you called your dad for Father's Day? Yeah. I said, well, why didn't you put him on the phone?
Yeah.
So he could say Happy Father's Day to your dad. Well, he called his father and he called his stepfather. He should have known to call my dad too. We had this conversation earlier this year.
Oh my God. He was supposed to be remember that.
Yeah, so I said, so wait a minute, girl. You were in the house all day steaming every hour he hadn't called your dad. She said, yes.
And he didn't know?
He
didn't even know. We be punishing, boy. We good for that.
He did not have a clue. So I said, how can
the expectation.
The expectation.
Yeah.
I was like, you cannot. I mean, you should have at least told him, like, hey, don't forget to call my dad. Why should I have told him that? It was just so funny to me. So that's like another case of like, she kind of set herself up for that disappointment. But yeah.
So tell me, like, how do you think disappointment arises? Like, I feel like it comes when we have an expected end or an expected response to a scenario or situation, and that doesn't happen the way we planned. Yeah. What do you think? Like, when do you think people experience it the most?
For me, I experience it the most when I really put my faith behind something. When I put my faith behind something and I like pray about it and I take it to God and it doesn't happen and I see it, like I literally see it happening a certain way, and like I'm making all these moves in that particular direction for this to happen in that way, and then something it's like stopped or whatever, like it doesn't go through that way, I then have to totally reroute, and it takes a minute to reroute. You know what I mean? Like when you're like all your directions, you only got directions to go one way. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You only know what food is on that route. Yeah. You only know what stops are on that route, what gas stations are on that route. Yeah. So if you got to reroute, it takes a second just to like pull yourself together and figure out, okay, now how am I going to deal with this? And then, you know, what does that other route look like for me?
So when you put your faith behind something, when you have an expected end, or what about when you don't have an expected end, but you just don't have anything out there? So you're disappointed because you don't have what you didn't even realize that you don't know what you want. I feel a lot of times women think we know what we want. And then, I mean, you're learning this when you're pregnant. Somebody can bring you food and you're like, that's not what I wanted. And you're disappointed, but you never really made clear what you wanted in the first place. So no one can actually step up to to that.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot, especially with
in
these
relationships.
Dudes. Yes.
Oh, that's huge. And that's just like her with the Father's Day thing. I said, why didn't you tell him that you wanted him to call your dad for Father's Day? That would have totally
it would have set everything up. He obviously would have done it. He was on the phone. He would have just dialed one more dad.
He had no idea. No idea.
And anyone that wanted to deal with her attitude all day. You know what I mean?
She was still mad. It was 3 days later.
Oh, girl, listen. If you're listening, you're going to learn today how to deal with that disappointment, because you cannot carry that. So, like, okay, when I get disappointed, I feel so much tension in my head. My body just gets tight. I shut off. I probably want to eat a lot of things I don't have any business eating. What about you? What are the symptoms of your disappointment?
For me, my chest gets tight. Ooh. So I can like feel like my chest tight. Like I feel it now because I'm still disappointed from earlier.
Yeah.
Oh. So it's like my chest gets tight. Usually I want to cry. And then same thing with you. I think the food thing is a thing for me too. Then I usually want to make a really bad decision with food.
I need a cheeseburger.
I need ice cream. I need something chocolate, which is what I'm eating right now, by the way.
I know. We're going to have to get you some chocolate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we know, like, as women, when we have any kind of disappointment that happens in our heart, I feel like that's why your chest comes tight, because yours is something that you're carrying in your heart, and everything there just kind of stiffens up.
Yes.
Mine is something I probably carry more in my head, so my head gets tight, and ultimately my body, my nerves all get tight. And it's just the way we respond to it. I mean, my kids could walk up to me and I will shave them good. I don't want them in my space. I need them to just go play. I need to process something. I might go fold clothes. I need something to take my mind away from it, but I definitely push people away when I'm in disappointment. What about you? Do you feel like you shut people out?
No, I want to talk about it.
Really?
Girl, I'll talk about this thing for 5 hours.
This is why we are yin and yang. This is exactly why. Because I'm completely the shut off. And you let me just tell you my story with the violins and everything.
If you let me, I would have sat here and talked to you. If we didn't have to do this podcast today, I would have went on and on and on about that for I could have gone on for another 2 hours.
Wow.
Rich is going to have to hear at least a couple hours of this probably.
I'm trying to help him out. Rich, this is for you, brother. I am trying to help you out because I don't want you listening to this in the car.
I have to talk it all the way out. I need to, and the people who are in my circle who I really trust to tell these types of things to, I talk to them about it because for me, I guess talking it out for me is a way to reroute, right? So it's like, I got to get all of this emotion out through my words so that I can figure out, okay, now how am I going to move forward? It's very difficult. If I keep all this disappointment in and I don't talk about it, it's hard for me to then figure out, okay, what's my next strategy?
Yeah, I know. I feel like I start building muscle some kind of weird way, because in my head, I'm processing things the way that I think it should have gone. And then probably 2 to 3 hours later, I'll check in with Kwaku and I'm like, babe, I need to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And that's where my accountability kicks in, where he's like, gives me something healthy to say or to do instead of what it was I had planned. So,
right.
No, I always wonder that, because disappointments are going to come. They're going to come in your relationships.
Yes.
They're going to come at work.
Yes.
They're going to come, with your family. They're going to come with your money. They're going to come, at restaurants.
Yes.
They're going to come with the doorman, the mailman, the UPS guy.
If you're an entrepreneur, they're going to come.
Heavens. They're going to come with vendors. They're going to come. You're going to be at a concert and somebody's tall going to be standing in front of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So disappointment's going to come. I think the thing that we today are going to be tapping into is, how do you process it in a healthy way so that you can walk away from a disappointment knowing that, everything doesn't have to have such a horrible ending.
Right.
So that's really what we want to kind of dive into a bit more, and give you great girlfriends so you can walk around more optimistic about life and the scenarios that come up, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And today this is going to help you, Brandis, because with the personal disappointment that you're feeling,
yes,
and how disappointment will also try to trickle over from one area to the next. And
yes,
ultimately, if you want to go in the car and pour this on Rich is going to be disappointed, because Rich is expecting to have one conversation with you in the car, and you are going to want to drop it all on him. And then you're going to go to the barbecue with a whole different attitude, and everybody at the barbecue is going to wonder what's going on. It's going to wreck your whole weekend.
It's true.
So we're going to dive in right now into what we think are top 3 ways to deal with disappointment. And Brandis, you're going to walk through these ways personally today. And then next podcast, you'll be able to come back to us and tell us how it helped you out.
All right.
What you saw.
Have 1 or 2.
1 or 2? Okay. All right. Brandis, what is the number one thing that you do to deal with disappointment?
I'll give you guys an example. The first thing I had to do today in dealing with the disappointment was level set my emotion. Mm-hmm. So when they told me how they wanted to move forward, which was not the way I expected things to go, to be honest with you, I wanted to cry. My natural emotion, because I was so tied up in that thing and so passionate about it, I was talking to them and I could feel the tears coming, and I had to really level set my emotion. The great thing was that I was at a restaurant in Macy's. So that also really helped me, but that's important. You gotta kind of take stock of your emotion, especially if you're in a professional setting, if you're at work, or if it's about business. I think if you're in your private home and you get disappointed, it's okay to show your emotion, or to cry or whatever. But I think that when you're dealing with something that's outside of personal, you really have to level set the emotion.
So how do you level set? Physically, what do you do?
I just had to pull myself together. I had cold water in front of me, which was very helpful.
Yes.
So I drank the cold water, and I just kept kind of reposturing myself, in the chair. You know what I mean? Because there's
your body state.
Your body, the way you kind of carry yourself, it can exude certain emotion, right? So if you pull yourself up in your seat, it just kind of helps you to pull it together.
Did you breathe at all?
I did.
That's one of my little tips.
Yep.
I take some deep breaths.
Yep.
I take some deep breaths. I mean, you could be in the middle of a great conversation, and then it just goes south. And before I say another word, I'm going to breathe 3 times deep. I might stare at you and think about all the things that I desire to say, but I'm going to breathe deep and let that fresh oxygen run through my body and give me something clear to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very important. I love that.
Yeah.
So level set, making sure that emotionally you level set in the moment.
In the moment.
In the moment.
In the moment.
All right.
Absolutely.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2.
Number 2 is, I would say, either don't respond right away or respond thoughtfully. So there were so many things I wanted to say. They had clearly made up their minds, and I had clearly stated my position on it. And so there was really nothing left to be said. And I did say a few things. I told them that I was disappointed and that I wish we had made this call a few weeks earlier. But going back and thinking about it now, I wish I would have just not said anything and given myself some time to think about how I wanted to respond. But I think in the moment I was trying to figure out, okay, because they kept talking, right? Like they kept going back and forth because I wasn't saying anything.
Okay.
So I think what I could have said in that moment was, guys, I really don't have a response right now. I prefer not to respond now, but I want you to know that I've definitely heard everything that you guys said, and I appreciate the phone call, and I will, get back to you guys in like the next few days. I could have done that, and that would have been fine, right? But
your flesh was like,
yeah, it's like I wanted to say something.
I want to get them, yeah.
And I wanted to say more, so I restrained myself from how much I wanted to say, but I think it would have been much wiser in that situation to have not said, to have not given an official response. It's like when things happen in the news, somebody's like, we don't have an official response from this person. Like, it's like, because they haven't decided how they want to respond yet. And then when they decide how they want to respond, the news will come out and say, we've got an official response from XYZ. And it's the same thing. Like, you don't have to respond in that moment, but you can let that person know that you appreciate what they've had to say and that, you're definitely taking everything they've said into consideration, but you need some time to process this and you'll, get back with them with your feedback.
The reason why that is such a good point is because you get locked into your response. So people hold you accountable to your response.
Yes.
So if, they said, Brandis, we're going to take the business in a different direction, and we'll get back to you on that. If you had gone off and said, well, you lousily beep, 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 and gone forward or whatever, I know you wouldn't do any of that, but just for example, you went crazy in this one moment.
Right.
You become known as the person who responds that way.
Yes.
And then if there were other doors that could potentially be opened for you through that relationship, they would be cracked.
Yeah.
They're not going to be wide open because you're unpredictable in that way.
Absolutely.
So it's important. And I think why people do that in the press is because you don't want to get locked in or build a reputation around your response, a negative response.
Absolutely not.
And that's a great one. I love that.
That's why even I wish I hadn't have said what I said.
But I think what you said was healthy. I think it wasn't, I think it was fair to say what you said, and I don't think that you'll be judged for it. I really don't.
I hope not.
I think you challenged them in the right way.
But I think that if I could do it over again, I wouldn't have said anything. One thing they did come back to me with when I said, there's some different decisions I would have made. They were like, oh, well, like, what did we do? Maybe we can help you fix it. What, different things you would have done or whatever, something like that. And that's when I was like, let me shut this down. Like, no, like, those are things, I'll deal with it. It's no problem. I'll figure it out, but just thank you for your time, because that could have snowballed into, well, we didn't stop you from doing that. You know what I mean? It just wasn't worth it to go down this rabbit hole. Sometimes it's just better to just like cut things off at phase 1 before you end up at phase 11 and you're like, how the heck did I get here?
So true.
Yeah.
So tell us your number 3.
I don't know if I have a number 3. What's your number 3? You may have to fill us in on that one.
Well, I would not want to leave out the forgiveness part because I feel like, some people would make forgiveness number 1. I would make it number 3 because you need to know what it is you're forgiving for. I think you need to always have forgiveness in your heart, but you couldn't have forgiven those guys off the top just for disappointment. What does that mean? You need to forgive them for what it was what action that caused you the disappointment. So their heart around the matter, where you thought their heart would have been different or their actions, that's where you got to forgive them. And I think that forgiveness is a major priority with disappointment, because just because one thing ends or one situation doesn't go the way we planned it to go doesn't mean that, if you have 4 fingers, that the other 4 fingers won't work out in your favor. You get what I mean?
Absolutely.
So being willing to forgive and move forward.
Yeah.
Knowing that was a beneficial moment for you to grow, take that lesson, grow from it, and move forward. Not for you to sit on it, rehearse it, replay it, and regret it.
I agree. I'm actually thinking
You need
about
to give me an offering. $5. You hear that? And if you want to send in your offering, you can log on to our website.
No, I'm sitting here. I just thought about something. I thought, sometimes there's a huge lesson in disappointment.
Yes.
And sometimes I think disappointment also steers up something in us.
Yeah.
That is helpful for the way that we move forward in life.
Absolutely. But that's the thing. To what you're saying, if you don't learn the lesson, like you said, if you don't have a healthy takeaway from a disappointment, you're going to run right into it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it'll become the sad story of this always happens to me.
Right.
When it's not this always happens. I never learned the lesson from my disappointments.
Wow.
That's what it is.
Wow.
You gonna give me my offering today.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm gonna let me look in the bag and see if I got a couple dollars.
Don't ask for change either. I'm not giving out no change. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's a lesson.
Absolutely
Because I've
right.
learned some of my best lessons through disappointments.
I have too. A disappointment that I did not share, but that I'll throw out very quickly was as I resigned from a company this year. I helped to play a very instrumental part in that company for 10 years. I'm gonna say. So when I walked away on the day that I was leaving, it was like I was running out to go to Walgreens. Like I wanted a parade.
Wow.
Why can't I have a parade? I wanted a parade.
You should have had a parade.
You know what I'm saying? I wanted a steak dinner. I wanted a thank you card. Wow. I wanted some roses, which I don't even really care for them, but I wanted some acknowledgement.
Right, that you've been here for 10
I need
years.
somebody to drop a tear.
Yeah.
Like something. And I did not get that. And I was very disappointed. And initially, I wanted to pretend like I didn't care. I wanted to just, that's just what it is. But as I was walking with my husband, I was like, babe, I'm actually very disappointed by the fact that they just let me walk out of there like nothing. Like nothing mattered.
Like you were an intern who had been there for 2 weeks.
I was, right. Like I'm some rookie that had not played this major role. So it was very disappointing. And I had to stop and settle in my heart that I don't live for that confirmation from other people, that I can acknowledge myself. I had to, like you said, level set right in that moment. How important is that in the grand scheme of things, right?
Right.
Emotionally, do I want to commit myself to feeling sad or enjoying this beautiful walk I'm having with my husband?
Right.
Do I want to let my years amount to that one moment, or do I want to continue to keep the value of all that I've learned over the years? And then this one moment means nothing to me.
Right.
So after I did that and I forgave, it was interesting because it really didn't matter by 20 minutes later.
Wow.
It didn't matter. But in the moment, it burned. I even tried to slow walk to the elevator.
Wow.
In case my surprise was waiting.
Wow. Some of that make me want to cry.
I did. I was like, my surprise is going to be around the corner. Child, please.
Makes me want to cry.
Girl, it was an air surprise. Wasn't nothing there. It was fizzled. But it's okay because I don't need that. I can get myself balloons. I can celebrate me all day. So I've learned to throw my own party.
Sometimes you gotta throw.
Your own party because other people won't come and throw it, and they won't do it the right way. And so, but that was a major disappointment. And I took these tips, the ones that you gave, and I implemented them. And I felt myself recover quickly.
Right.
Quick response to that. But it was me quickly level setting, me quickly putting it in perspective and letting it out to my husband and say, babe, this, and then actually mentally processing and going, wait a minute, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, because you would have let that get in the way of you being so excited about starting your own venture.
Hello?
And
Absolutely.
then you start your own venture with this big
yeah,
huge disappointment in the room, you know.
And I turned into this, 5 minutes. I turned it into that was rejection.
Right.
Am I being rejected in this next stage? Does this mean that I'm not supported going forward? That's like 10 people in one room out of the 200 and whatever millions of people that live in America alone.
Right.
But I made that so monumental for literally it was less than 30 minutes, but it was big in that moment
right.
because I felt like I deserved so much more. And don't get me wrong, I still did deserve more. I just don't need them to give it to me.
I love it.
You know?
I love that.
It's the same for
That's
you.
a lesson.
Yeah.
That is a lesson.
It's not that I don't deserve that celebration and that someone should throw me a party of some sort. I'm giving Brandis. It's just that, honestly, if they're not the ones to give it to me,
right, you'll get it.
I will be celebrated for my work and my commitment at some stage in life.
Absolutely. You will celebrate.
And likewise with you in business, you will see the fruit of your labor, and you will have the right partners with the right heart and the right commitment at the right time.
It's true.
To help drive your results.
Absolutely.
And like any girlfriend that's listening with a boyfriend,
any girlfriend that's listening with a boyfriend, you're gonna be disappointed. But same thing, like honestly, this exact same 3 things apply.
Yeah.
Same 3 things apply. Level set your emotion. Think about your response, or maybe don't respond. And quite honestly, sometimes no response in a relationship is better than a response.
Yeah.
You know, especially, guys I feel like they don't like to feel, what is the word for it? Bossed.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they don't want to feel bossed or like
Dominated.
somebody's trying to dominate them or whatever. And so sometimes when they know you're disappointed, just let it go. Like, sometimes it's not even worth the conversation. Like, they already know. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that silence sometimes is so much more powerful than anything you could ever say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, I would say, to a girlfriend who's, at her job and didn't get that promotion that she's looking for, you know what? Create your standard the same way we talked through those 3 tips, and just know that one disappointment is not the end of your career. It's not. It's not the end of your lifetime. It's not the end of your career, and it's not the last opportunity that will come your way.
And figure out what lessons you can learn from it.
Yeah. Learn the lesson. Learn the lesson, right?
Learn the lesson.
All right, so that's it for us today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening into this podcast. You have no idea how much we appreciate you. You're our great girlfriends for listening.
Yes. And we are just really, 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 really happy that we can give you support and give you conversation and answers to some of the questions that you're having in your daily life. And we also want to thank our families.
Thank you so
Mom
much.
And dad and
Yes.
sisters and brothers and husbands.
Yes.
Ow. And kids. Ow. And friends and everyone in between. We want to thank you for your support, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for liking, and thank you for everything that you do for us. So visit our website.
Yes, thegreatgirlfriends.com.
And also check out our Facebook page,
which is The Great Girlfriends.
And also check out our Twitter, and our Instagram is coming up as well. And in all of those mediums, don't forget to post your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Post your questions, share with your friends, keep listening, and
keep being a great girlfriend. You're corny. All right, we're signing off.